everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I know it's been a couple of weeks and I apologize for my absence, but I am back today with a very highly requested video. I recently did an unboxing and first impressions of Joanna Nelson's Whispering Spirits tarot deck, and as a lot of you know, the Monstarot, Joanna Nelson's first tarot deck, is one of my favorites ever. So I've done a full review of this one and a flip through first impressions of this one, and I'll leave both of those videos down below if you're interested. But the requests have been for a comparison between the two. And I'm more than happy to do that. That's what we're going to be doing today. But to add a little bit of fun into the mix, because we all know I love a bit of fun, I actually want to do like a Monstarot versus the Whispering Spirits. So obviously I'm probably going to be a bit biased in favor of the Monstarot, but I still thought this would be fun. Basically, we're going to go through card by card, see how these two different decks have depicted each and every card in the tarot deck, and I'm going to pick my favorite. And at the end, we might see which tarot deck has won in terms of, you know, the majority of cards I like most. Now, this competition part of this video is all in good fun, like I said, just to add something a little bit different to the comparison video, but hopefully this will also fulfill your curiosity if you're deciding which of the two decks you're interested in. I'm pretty sure the Monstarot is currently being kickstarted for a second edition, which is very exciting. So the first kind of main difference is the boxes. They're both hard, sturdy boxes, which is great. The Whispering Spirits, though, is a magnetic flip top box, whereas the Monstarot is a two-part lid comes off sort of a box. I don't really have a preference either way, to be honest. I really like both. It does also have this lovely decoration on the inside, whereas the Little Monsters doesn't. This is all nitpicking though. Both are great boxes. But for the sake of competition, we'll say that the Whispering Spirits box wins. Now, the books themselves, I have not read the Whispering Spirits Tarot Guidebook, so I'm not going to comment on the content. I have read the Little Monsters and I love it. They're both similar size. The only thing is that the Whispering Spirits does have kind of like a slightly harder cardstock for the cover, and obviously it's coloured. But in terms of the amount of information you get, it seems pretty comparable. So I don't think that there's really a clear winner here at all. Just wanted to show you those two. The other difference we have is that my edition of the Little Monsters Tarot has this additional card. I don't think it's going to be in other editions, but it is adorable. Now the backings, I'm going to pick a favorite here, and as pretty as the Whispering Spirits Tarot is, I have to say I think I prefer the Little Monsters. I love how simple it is. I just think it's really pretty, and it makes a lovely contrast to the bright colours on the front of the cards. Oh, I suppose too I should check cardstock, isn't it? I don't know whether it's because my Little Monsters Tarot is a lot more worn in, but I think the cardstock on the Whispering Spirits, it feels a little thicker or a little bit more stiff. They're pretty similar though. I think the Monstarot, it feels a little bit more slick as well. I think this might be slightly more matte. But again, that could be because it's more worn in. I'm not really sure. They're very similar though. Both are lovely. The main part of this though is of course comparing the card images themselves. So let's get stuck into that. So for this whole video, the Little Monsters on the Monstarot will be on this side and the Whispering Spirits on this side. So of course we are starting with the Fool, and already this is really tricky because both of these are such simple decks. They're beautiful, but they are just really simple. Both are also very Rider-Waite-Smith. Like here we have kind of in the background mountains, although our little creature is standing on stars, which is adorable. We have the Fool. Both are purple actually, and both are holding like a little knapsack or a bag on a stick. Both also have a flower, although this one has an adorable little smiley face. And each has their little, you know, in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith, it was a friend, a dog. In here they have these little companions. This companion is super cute. It kind of looks like a, I don't know, a marsupial, but also a dinosaur. So... And I love the little hat on this fellow. And I love the kind of toothy grins that these monsters have and kind of their funny little feet. I do like the simplicity of this one though, and how we have like the bright yellow behind our spirit, our Whispering Spirit. And it kind of looks like they're already kind of tumbling down a big mountainside. I also like too how we've kind of got little, I don't know, see these little dots? It makes it look like the trail of the fool and the companion. So we get that kind of sense of movement, although I think this one kind of has a cheekier sort of, like the confidence that the fool can have. I think this one you get more of a sense of that, whereas this one feels more innocent and naive. Honestly, this is a bit of a coin toss for me. But I'm going to go with the Little Monsters Tarot just because I love the facial expression and I read a lot through that kind of expression. And also like the little creature here is adorable and this one edges out slightly for me, the Little Monsters. Now we have our Magicians. Oh, so cute. Again, they're very similar. They're both very Rider-Waite-Smith. We have the roses and the lilies represented in both, although they're kind of more obvious in the Little Monsters. We have the table, in this case a mushroom, this more like a tree stump, I guess, with the magician's tools. All kind of classic ones are there, the pentacle, the sword, the cup, the staff, same in this one. Both for their left hand are pointing down and in their right hand are holding something up to the sky. For the Little Monsters, it's a scroll, it looks like, whereas the Whispering Spirits is like this little wand with leaves on the end. It's very sweet. I like that this magician's kind of levitating. That does give like the extra magical sort of feeling to it. But I like the textures more in the Little Monsters. We've got like kind of a textured background as opposed to more of a flat one here. Along with the magician here levitating, we also have like little, everything kind of seems to be alive in the Whispering Spirits. Like there's kind of that same sort of trail, like magical dust, I don't know what else to call it, kind of coming out of the cup and following the stars. This one feels more magical, I suppose, whereas this one feels more like ritual magician guy. I am going to go with the Little Monsters again here though. It's just a gut feeling. Like both are adorable. I like both. And like I said, I might just be biased in favor of the Little Monsters. But this one just to me has more personality and character. The High Priestess, again, like even the color palette, like the background here is very similar, although the Little Monsters, the background seem to be a lot more textured, which I do really like. It gives a bit more depth. I love this priestess's little toothy grin, and the hair has like the triple moon symbol as kind of like a hair, not a scrunchie, but like a hair clip, I suppose. And we have a moth here, but also the kind of similar matching wings on the priestess, and I like that she's kind of standing on the moon. The High Priestess in the Whispering Spirits though feels more alien, which I really like. I like the green color, and this kind of, it looks like a fat little koala or something, which I just love. So this time I think I'm gonna have to go for the Whispering Spirits, edges out just slightly. Now we have the Empress. Both actually have the little origami boat in each, which is cute. I really like the green in this in terms of like the trees and the grass, just because it feels more real, or at least like this kind of green is very common in my landscape. So I really like that color green for the nature. I really love this little creature over here that kind of looks like it's playing with the boat. I think that's adorable. I love these little lady beetles. I love that we have the star crown that we see in the Rider-Waite-Smith, and we don't have the like Venus symbol, but we have a little love heart, which is kind of cute. And then we also have the pomegranate kind of as, it looks like a rattle or something, the way that the Empress is holding it, but could be something else too. I like the little mushrooms here, although this one looks rather phallic. And I do like this kind of, it looks a bit like a beetle or something, the Empress in this one. So I'm kind of, how I'm feeling is like I prefer the beetle to this little monster, but I prefer almost everything else in this card to this one, if that makes sense. I do kind of like how this one more looks like the Empress is like presiding over and protecting these little lady beetles. It seems quite sweet. Whereas this one seems a little bit more passive. So I don't know, I'm a bit torn. And this kind of looks more directly like mother and baby, or parent and baby, which is cute, but I like less than the kind of scene that's going on in this one. As adorable as this one is, I think I'm going to have to go with the Little Monsters just because I kind of like what's going on in the scene more in terms of me reading with the Empress card. Now for our Emperor. I think straight off the bat, this one's actually quite a bit easier for me than the others have been so far. I think I prefer the Whispering Spirits. In large part because this one has always kind of, whenever I first see this, I think it's kind of the Hierophant. When I see it compared to the actual Hierophant, you know, it makes more sense. But just kind of at a first glance, I often confuse this with the Hierophant, and I did certainly, that was my first impression when I first got the deck. This one feels more like an Emperor to me, and I don't know whether that's like, you know, this bright red kind of shawl or whatever it is around its neck, or just like the position. And I really like the big mountains. Like we have them both, we have mountains in both of these, but these feel more like sand hills, whereas these feel like very imposing, impressive mountain ranges. I think the other thing that kind of brings across more the Emperor vibe is that we have these, I don't know what sort of animal that is. Is that like a bull? It's not a bull. But the skulls here with the horns, that is very Aries. Whereas we have a little crown sort of thing happening here, but it looks more like a little hat. I do like this one's little beard and everything though, but I think the Whispering Spirits wins this one for me. And this is another interesting one because I adore this in the Little Monsters. I think it's so sweet, it's so cute, and it's actually a Hierophant card I can really get behind. I always really love this little candle in its antlers, and just, I don't know, the really generous spirit that I get from this one. I always really liked. There's so much about the Little Monsters Hierophant that I loved. But so much of what I loved about this one is also here in the Whispering Spirits, but I prefer it. I love it with these kind of birds and everything hanging around. It feels very storyteller vibe to me. It feels like this Hierophant is, I was going to say, it's not so much a spiritual leader, but rather like a moral one. You know, the idea of us learning morals and values through storytelling. That's kind of the feeling I get from this Hierophant, so it's a definite winner for me. Now for our Lovers, this one's a pretty clear one for me too, the Little Monsters Lovers. It's so joyful to me. I love it. I love that we have the snake in the tree. The sun just looks so happy, and this little kind of guardian angel monster thing is too adorable. So it's the Little Monsters take the crown for me for the Lovers card. Both of these Chariot cards are really, really sweet. I think this is really, you can very, very clearly see here the difference just in the backgrounds of these two decks. There's a lot more dynamic color and texture happening in the background of the Little Monsters as compared to the Whispering Spirits. The Whispering Spirits feels a lot more like clean. Cleaner lines, cleaner backgrounds. There still is texture. It's not just one flat color, but just in comparison, you can certainly see that here. And for me, I really love this Chariot card. That background kind of, it looks like it's swirling behind the Chariot. It's just really beautiful. And also just like everything about this one with its little, it looks like an upside down mushroom for the cart that it's in. And these little creatures just are really sweet. I do like the origami sort of thing happening here, but I think the Little Monsters Chariot wins out for me. Okay, now we have our Justices. And this is honestly a tricky one for me because upon first glance, I do prefer the look, the colors, everything of the Little Monsters. But in terms of kind of the feeling I get from the card, I get a more successful idea of what the Judgment card, the Justice card means to me through the Whispering Spirits. I like that we have these kind of two little orb spirits that seem to be advising justice almost. It reminds me of, you know, like the devil on the shoulder, the angel on the shoulder. I really like that. So even though I much prefer the colors and everything in this one in terms of visual appeal, I'm going to go with the Whispering Spirits in terms of the way that the card and the meaning of the card's depicted. Now for our Hermit cards, this one's a pretty clear winner to me. I think the Little Monsters just really nails the Hermit card. With the closed eyes, the top of the mountain, it just looks so introspective, but really serene and beautiful. And I really like the little dragonfly for the lantern. There's just so much. I just think this is a much more successful Hermit. I love the candle on the head. I think obviously it's just really cute, but it could also symbolize a lot of things in terms of enlightenment or knowledge. So I think the Little Monsters is a clear winner for me. Now the Wheel of Fortune. This is a tricky one for me because I really like the kind of guardians of the four corners in the Whispering Spirits, and the fact that we're the kind of the origami animals. I think that's really sweet. But I don't so much get the movement sense with this one as opposed to this one. It seems a little bit more out of control. But I do like that this is up in the clouds and it kind of looks like this creature might be, I don't know, in control of fate or something. And like the guardian. I don't know, it gives off a really different feeling. This is a bit of a coin toss for me. I'm just going to go with my gut, and it says the Whispering Spirits wins for the Wheel of Fortune. Now for strength. The Little Monster's strength actually kind of makes me giggle. It kind of looks like strength is, I don't know, trying to feed or give medicine to this weird little monster creature that's just adorable. I really like it. It kind of looks like it's coughing up stars and love. I don't know, it's just adorable. Whereas the Whispering Spirits is kind of more, it looks more like the classic strength, I suppose, in some ways. It's just there being a lion, but also it not being super weird. I really like the attire of strength in this one actually too. I do like how we still have the infinity symbol, but it's kind of woven into the scrunchie on the head of strength. I think that's sweet. For me, in terms of just the message of strength, I think, I don't know, it could go either way. I like both of them, but today I'm going to pick the Whispering Spirits. I like this one. Now the Hanged Monster or the Hanging Spirit for the Hanged Man. I really love this creature for the Hanging Spirit. There's just something about it that I really, really like. For me, I feel like there's slightly more room for interpretation in the Hanging Spirit as opposed to the Hanged Monster. Again, there's not much between these two. I really like both of them. Today the Whispering Spirit's edging out though. Now for our Death card. This one's actually a pretty easy one for me. They're both very similar in terms of symbolism. Both have kind of death here. This death in the Whispering Spirits is holding the flag that we're used to seeing with the symbol that we're used to seeing in the Rider-Waite-Smith, as opposed to kind of this walking stick with like a crow's skull or something in the Little Monsters. I love how it has kind of this beak or something that's tied to its face for death. I really like that. Both have a smaller creature offering death a white flower, which I really like. But just for me, I do prefer the Whispering Spirits. I think just because mostly death reminds me of No Face from Spirited Away. I just kind of like that look more. Now for our Temperance. Again, they're very, very similar. I think in terms of personality, the Little Monsters just kind of makes me smile a bit more. I really like this creature's face though. It's interesting and sweet. But I do love the little fish, and the fact that these are kind of fish bowls just gives me a little bit of a kick. This could really change on a daily basis as to which one I like more. I'm really struggling with some of these. Today I'm going to give it to the Whispering Spirits. The Whispering Spirits is on a bit of a roll. Okay, so now we're on the Devil, and this is a tricky one because I prefer the kind of overall feeling and the colour scheme of the Little Monsters, but I really like the kind of puppeteering that's going on in the Whispering Spirits. I also just think this frog devil thing is really cool. I think I'm going to go with the Whispering Spirits solely because of this puppeteering that's going on. I really like that. Now for the Tower. For me, the Little Monsters is a clear winner. The Whispering Spirits is sweet, but I just don't get the same sense of trauma and all of that as I do with the Tower in the Little Monsters. I think it's a clear winner. Now for the Star, I really like both. I love how this Whispering Spirit almost feels like the embodiment of the star. In terms of I just think the Little Monster Star is so beautiful and colourful. I really like how it kind of looks like this star's glowing. And how the water is kind of coming out directly from its hands as opposed to vessels. I like how the tree that our bird is in is part of our little monster as opposed to part of the landscape. I think the Little Monsters has to win this one for me. Both of these moons, again, are really similar, are very, very cute. Even the colours, kind of the blue, the green, the purple, they feel very similar. I love that this little creature here is playing like a mini violin. I just think it's adorable. But these creatures, these fox Pokemon things in the Whispering Spirits, I just adore. So the Whispering Spirits is my winner. Now for our sun card. Both are so cute. I love how the sun you could either kind of view as being behind our spirit in the Whispering Spirits, or almost as this creature looks like it is the sun, or it's become the sun. I really like that. But overall, I think I just get more of the sun feeling from the Little Monsters. I think because we kind of look like we're looking up. The perspective of the card is looking up, just straight into the sky. It just feels so much more vibrant, bright, and kind of almost could be viewed as too much so, with the sun kind of illuminating everything. The Little Monsters wins this one. Now for our Judgment card. Both are really sweet. I like how we have these kind of ant creatures almost like coming up out of their holes. Whereas this one, they almost look like little ghosts or something. They more just look like they're dancing, which I think is really sweet, and I like that. I don't know, I'm a little torn. I think I prefer this Judgment character compared to this one. But overall, I think I get more of the sense of what Judgment means to me from the Little Monsters, I think. I don't know, this one could go either way, but I'm going to give it to the Little Monsters. Now for our world. Both are so cute. Both are, again, really quite similar. Like, we have all these leaves surrounding what is our world character, I suppose, as opposed to in the Little Monsters, we still have all leaves, but they're surrounding the earth. And this card actually kind of really reminds me of how I feel about the Little Monsters overall. And I don't want to go into too much detail. I've explained the whole thing in a lot of detail in my review. But I think I do prefer the Little Monsters world. There's something kind of protective about it, and celebratory, really quite beautiful. I think, yeah, Little Monsters wins this one. And now we are into the Minor Arcana. Our first main difference is that the Pentacles suit is called Pentacles in the Little Monsters, but coins in the Whispering Spirit. Now, it's interesting because I kind of, from immediate, like just looking at them, I kind of prefer the Whispering Spirits just because I think this creature here is beautiful. I think it's really sweet. I love like the arc above, which I know we do have in the Pentacle, the Ace of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite-Smith. We have kind of the arc in the background. And this one feels more earthy, which makes sense for the coins or the pentacles. But I think, I don't know, there's something about this one that feels more like an ace to me, if that makes sense. This one feels more earth and pentacles. This one feels more ace. I don't know if that makes sense. This almost looks like it could be the Queen of Pentacles, I suppose. I really like both, but this one gives me more of that sense of newness and beginning. So I'm going to go with the Little Monsters. Now for our Two of Pentacles or coins. I prefer the colour palette quite a bit in the Little Monsters, but I do really like here in the Whispering Spirits how this creature is balancing these two coins, one in the foot and one in the foot and one in the hand. I don't know, that just kind of adds to the whole, you know, really struggling with that dynamic or that balance and finding that right balance and juggling between the two. I don't know, that adds something to it with that. In terms of aesthetic, I definitely much prefer the Little Monsters here though. And I do love how we have the boats in the background like we do in the traditional tarot, but we also have a boat as a hat on this little monster, which I kind of like, and I think also kind of adds to that the struggle in the balance, in that, you know, the ocean is rocky and so is his head trying to balance his hat while he's working with these two pentacles. I don't know, there's quite a lot of motion in this one as well. So I do love the hand and foot thing here, but I think I really do prefer the Little Monsters. Both of these cards are so damn sweet, it almost hurts. I like how we can kind of see their little their little plan and sketches here. I think that's really sweet. I think I do get more of a sense of that teamwork and working together and one person kind of directing the others, and I get more of that sense from this one, which I quite like. So I think the Whispering Spirits wins for the 3 of coins. Again, I think overall I'm getting this sense that I prefer the color palette and the texture quite a lot more in the Little Monsters. But some of the cards in the Whispering Spirits I just feel like capture something extra, and I really get that sense with the 4 of coins. Both feel possessive, both feel kind of control, like trying to hold on to those resources. But this one feels very stable in the sense that this creature's kind of found perfect stability. But if it swings too much either way, or if it, you know, loses one coin here, it's really going to put it out of balance. It feels more important to this person here, this creature here, to maintain some kind of stability and structure. It feels kind of like there's more at risk. I don't know, kind of more like I understand why this person is being so careful and cautious, as opposed to this little monster kind of just looking a little bit greedy. The Whispering Spirits wins for the 4. And now for our 5 of coins or pentacles. Both of these cards, if we kind of break them down, are again very similar. We kind of have our main figure here with, in this case, it looks like a little mushroom, kind of feeling sad for our little creature, as opposed to a rock. I suppose looks more like a stable place to rest. And then our pentacles are kind of over the top of both of those characters. I do get more of a sense of turbulence in this one with the kind of movement in the background, which I really like. Mirrors the kind of snowstorm we sort of see in the 5 of Pentacles in the Rider-Waite-Smith. For me, this one just feels like it almost could be more like, I don't know, the 4 of Cups maybe? Or even the 5 of Cups, whereas this one feels more 5 of Pentacles. So I'm going to go with the Little Monsters on this one. Now the 6 of Coins. The Little Monsters here is definitely more playful, more fun. And again, I do prefer the colours and everything. But as far as the 6 of Pentacles is concerned, I think I probably prefer the Whispering Spirits here. There's less of that, I don't know. This one feels almost too nice for the 6 of Pentacles for me. Like, this creature seems very happy to be giving. This creature seems just like happy and like cool, and I don't know. Whereas this one, there's kind of a bit more of ambiguity in it, I suppose, which I appreciate for the 6 of Coins. So the Whispering Spirits for this one. Now our 7 of Coins. I really love this 7 of Pentacles in the Little Monsters, but I have to say, I think the Whispering Spirits kind of nails the idea of what the 7 of Pentacles is about a little better. With this creature kind of leaning on its rake, kind of stepping back and having a look at the harvest, it seems to be more waiting. And even this little thing up here, I don't know why, but it reminded me of divine timing, or just timing in general. It kind of seemed, that's what I first thought of when I first saw that anyway. Whereas this one feels a little bit more like they're ready to jump right in. I really like both, but I'm going to give it to the Whispering Spirits. There are things I like about both of these. I really love this kind of way that the paint, or whatever it is being drawn up with the paintbrush. I just think that's really cool. I like that detail there. I think it's really interesting. But I also really like the way that this monster in the Little Monsters seems more youthful, and seems more deliberate, and like it's trying to get in those lines, whereas this one's kind of just it looks like it's just splashing it about everywhere. So both kind of give that idea of someone learning something, someone practicing at something, but I just get more of the dedication feeling, I suppose, that comes with the 8 of Pentacles for me in the Little Monsters. So I'm going to go with the Little Monsters. Now the 9 of Pentacles, again, really similar even in colour. Both give similar but slightly different feelings to me. The Little Monsters more comes across as like opulence and wealth, whereas the Whispering Spirits kind of more comes across as abundance. And I know those things are very similar, but it's just a slightly different feeling for me. I also really like the interaction between our little monster and the bird here. I do think this is really cute though. I really do like this little spirit here. I really like this, but I don't know. I think the Little Monsters just gives me more of what I want from the Nine of Pentacles, which is less abundance and more wealth and independence, I suppose. So the Little Monsters wins this one, but only just. Now the 10. Honestly, I have to say that the Whispering Spirits, I think just in terms of the color palette, actually looks a bit sad, which I suppose makes less sense for me for the 10. I don't so much get that feeling of family. Like, it's there a bit, but I just think even though this is almost like too cute in the Little Monsters, I just get more of that sense of family, which is something, I don't know, I like to see. So Little Monsters wins this one. Page of Pentacles. I really like both of these. I think the Whispering Spirits page is really sweet and actually looks a lot more naive and almost fearful, whereas the Little Monsters kind of looks just really excited. The Whispering Spirits just seems a lot more unsure, and there's something really quite sweet about that, and I think that certainly fits for the page. I do like though how the background here really lends itself to like the pentacle being the focal point. I mean, obviously our little monster is looking directly at the pentacle, but also the background kind of swirling around it, that becomes our focus point too. I like that detail. I really like both, and I think that kind of unsure, nervous sort of feeling I get from this page does work. I like that for the page, but I think overall I do slightly prefer the Little Monsters page, so I'm going to go with that one. Now for our knight. This knight almost feels like it could be a page in comparison to this one. I haven't thought about that before working with the Little Monsters, but just now that I'm seeing these two next to each other, this one kind of looks like it's learning how to ride, whereas this one looks like it's setting off on an adventure. And so both work, and as per usual, I actually do prefer the look and the color of the Little Monsters. I think I prefer the execution and like the meaning I get from this knight. So but also for the coins, it kind of works, that kind of really getting to know the basics before you go off. I'm not sure. I think I will go with the Whispering Spirits as my winner for these though. Now for our Queen of Coins or Pentacles. There's a lot I like about the Queen and the Whispering Spirits. I like that our Queen looks really quite powerful and in charge. I like this big kind of over-the-top crown. Definitely feels very queenly, whereas the Little Monsters, in comparison, again, I haven't thought about this before, but just in comparison, looks a little bit more princessy, I suppose. But I do really like the kind of three eyes here. I think it is just kind of, you know, like a monster's three eyes sort of thing, but obviously we also have that connotation of the third eye, which I think is quite nice. To me, it's just adding to the idea that this queen is very aware of what's going on around her, can kind of keep an eye on all the different details and things. This is only a small thing too, but I do quite like that the pentacle in the Little Monsters is just a lot more clear than the pentacle in the Whispering Spirits. Like I can see that it is a pentacle, but maybe because it's a little darker, it kind of more looks like just a ball that the queen's holding. I don't know. I think I really like this queen, but just something about my gut is saying that I prefer the Little Monsters. So that's what we're going with. Now for our kings. I really like the authoritative kind of look of this king. Very, very earthy with these mountains and this kind of big brown castle in the background. I like this one though because it's adorable and cute and stuff, but also we have another like third eye happening up here, which kind of mirrors what I was saying about the Queen of Pentacles earlier. But also I've always seen this little stick as an eye too, that kind of keeping an eye, like this guy has a lot of eyes, kind of keeping an eye on everything that's going on in the realm, I suppose. It is quite cheerful and cute. I prefer the look and everything that the Little Monsters is offering, but if I had to pick which one feels more like a king of pentacles, I would pick the Whispering Spirit. So let's go with that one. And now we are at the Ace of Swords. These two feel really different to me. This Ace of Swords in the Little Monsters almost feels like it could be the Page of Swords, whereas this Ace of Swords, it does feel more like this guardian has like procured this sword from somewhere and is like offering it up. I'm not sure if that makes any sense. So this one has that newness and beginning that the page has, but it feels more like a page to me. So I'm going to go with the Whispering Spirits on the ace. The Two of Swords. These are very, very, very similar. I like that the Little Monsters Two of Swords is standing in the water as opposed to kind of near the water. And I like the little rocks and creatures around this Two of Swords. So like they're very similar, but my preference is the Little Monsters. The Three of Swords. I think here I'm going to go with the Whispering Spirits. Both are cute, but this one's perhaps just a little too fluffy, adorable compared to this one. This one has a bit more of a somber feel to it. I don't know. And also I just really like this Wobbuffet looking creature. Now 4. I prefer the colours in the Little Monsters. I like the little dragonfly sort of creature that looks like hovering over our monster. But there's something about this Four of Swords that I really like. I think perhaps the little yoga pose thing just feels a little bit on the nose for me for the Little Monsters. Just a tad. I really quite like this frog sort of balancing. There is a restful state, but not necessarily one that can last. I like that. So I'm going to go with the Whispering Spirits for this. Now our Five of Swords. Very, very similar. Again, very classic Rider-Waite-Smith. This, in the Whispering Spirits, our kind of main figure here looks almost remorseful, which I think is interesting. As with so many of these, I do sort of prefer the Little Monsters just because for me, I kind of feel like if I'm going to go ridiculously cute, I might as well have toothy grins and, you know, all of that sort of stuff. But I think for the energy of the Five of Swords, I think the Whispering Spirits will take the cake. Just edges out slightly. Now for our Six of Swords. Again, I prefer the look and the colours and everything in the Little Monsters, but the Whispering Spirits does feel more somber, I suppose. A little bit more sad, which I think is appropriate for the Six of Swords. So the Whispering Spirits wins this one. Our Seven of Swords. This could kind of go either way. As per usual, I prefer the look of the Little Monsters, but I do think maybe the Whispering Spirits captures the Seven of Swords a little bit better, just because our little monster in the Little Monsters kind of looks a little bit, I don't know, more like it's just having fun. It is quite cheeky though, which I suppose brings across that more mischievous sort of feeling of the card. I think the Whispering Spirits just takes the cake on this one too. Now the Eight of Swords. The Whispering Spirits definitely looks more dire. And I suppose it depends on what sort of take you like on the Eight of Swords. This one in the Whispering Spirits feels more like a victim of circumstance as opposed to the Eight of Swords in the Little Monsters, which feels more like self-victimization, or at least holding yourself back. A little bit more of the self-inflicted element that a lot of people like too. I think for me, I often prefer the victim of circumstance more, the angle, I suppose. So I guess I might have to go with the Whispering Spirits on this one. The Nine of Swords. The Little Monsters definitely has more of like the nightmare in bed with a teddy bear sort of feeling. And also with these like insects kind of controlling the swords, it seems almost more, I don't know, like someone coming after our little monster, as opposed to the Nine of Swords in the Whispering Spirits, which I said in my unboxing, I really like this one. I like how, you know, our little spirits kind of curled up under a tree. But in particular, I like the eyes in the trees. It just reminds me of kind of not quite knowing what's real, not quite knowing what is dangerous and what isn't, and kind of that uncertainty almost being more fearful than anything. I also think the colour palette, the darker colour palette in the Whispering Spirits just works better for the Nine of Swords. So the Whispering Spirits wins this one. And then the Ten of Swords. For me, the Ten of Swords has to be about an absolute ending. I don't mind Ten of Swords that more show the aftermath, where they're, you know, someone getting back up after being stabbed. But for me and my experience of the Ten of Swords, I do prefer that this is an absolute ending. And the Ten of Swords in the Whispering Spirits still kind of feels like there's momentum, maybe even hope, although I don't know. It just doesn't give me quite the same feeling. Whereas this one feels more like the beginning of the resignation of the ending, if that makes sense. And I quite like that. Like there's a level of acceptance here. that this is the end of the road. So I think the Little Monsters wins this one for me. The Page of Swords. Again, this is quite similar. I mean, these two cards are very similar, but also what we were talking about with the Page of Pentacles, where the Whispering Spirits I really like. It's really sweet, but there's more of this nervous energy and more of the excitement in the Little Monsters. I do like how we have these birds kind of taking flight, and in both the trees are kind of moving with this breeze, which I like a lot too, especially for the swords. I like how this page is kind of on the edge of a cliff, kind of also having that beginning almost fool-like feeling. But I have to say, I think I prefer the Little Monsters. I do like that kind of anticipation, that excitement that the pages often have. I like that youthful energy. So the Little Monsters wins this one. I really like the colours and everything about the Little Monsters. It's a clear winner in terms of the look, but I do like the Knight of Swords in the Whispering Spirits for that kind of really forward motion. I don't so much get that with the Little Monsters, and that's something I really like about the Knight of Swords, is that really clear, almost aggressive forward motion. So I think the Whispering Spirits wins this one. The Queen of Swords. The Little Monsters is really sweet, but I just think the Whispering Spirits takes the cake for this one. The Queen just looks a lot more regal and like a queen instead of a princess. And also I just really like how all of the subjects are kind of turning in towards the Queen as a leader. I love that. So the Queen of Swords for the Whispering Spirits wins. Our King of Swords. I really love the Little Monsters court cards in context of the Little Monsters, but I do think here this King wins for me. And I spoke a little bit about the King and Queen of Swords in my unboxing, so I do think the Whispering Spirits wins this one. Now for the Ace of Wands. And I'm getting a bit of a theme here with the aces, that I love the Little Monsters, I love the colours, I love all of that stuff. I really love that deck, but they kind of feel more like pages to me, whereas this ace feels like the essence of the wands or something. Like it feels more like the spirit of the wands, as opposed to the kind of more youthful beginning that I get with the Little Monsters aces, if that makes sense. So I think, I'm not sure. I do like this butterfly and the stars and the kind of sense of inspiration and something happening, but it just doesn't really feel like an ace to me. So I think the Whispering Spirits wins this one. Now for the Two of Wands. There's a clear winner here for me. I love the Little Monsters here. Just the kind of pure potential at the edge of this mountain. And I mean, the Whispering Spirits is on the edge too, but this just feels like utter potential because we can't see anything. It just feels like stepping out into the cosmos, although it could also just be water. We can't really tell. I love that. I think I do like that this has like the planet on its head. I like this little winged companion sort of thing happening, but I think the Little Monsters wins this quite easily for me. Three of Wands. They're really, really, really similar. So for this one, I'm just going to go with, I prefer the art style and the colours and the Little Monsters, so it wins. The Four of Wands. Both are really sweet. I really like these little creatures, and I really like a lot about the Whispering Spirits. This is probably one of the cards I like most in the Whispering Spirits deck, but I do think the Little Monsters for me captures more of the joy, and this almost feels like it could be the Ten of Pentacles, whereas the Ten of Pentacles and the Whispering Spirits didn't have a family vibe for me enough, or at least not a happy one. This one does, but I still feel like the Four of Wands in the Little Monsters, I just think it's more successful in terms of celebration. Both work, but I'm going to go with the Little Monsters. The Five of Wands. For me, another clear winner is the Little Monsters. To me, this looks more combative, more like there's a problem. This almost looks like they're trying to help each other put something together in the Whispering Spirits. So the Little Monsters wins for me. The Six of Wands. I really like both. They're both really cute. but I much prefer the little monsters here. There's more of a sense of pride, I think, and I think also the fact that all the other creatures that are in this picture in their little monsters are below this character. That elevation, that level of success and admiration, all of that sort of stuff that can go along with the Six of Wands, I think is more effectively conveyed in the little monsters, as opposed to we kind of have a lot going up on above in this character, in this picture. So I don't know, little monsters wins this one. Seven of Wands. Both really work. I do think the spirit in the Whispering Spirits looks more like it's bracing itself, which I like. I like that it's kind of wrapped up. It almost looks like it's wrapped itself up in some kind of protective gear. Our little monster looks a little bit cheerful, but so many of these little monsters do. The only place where I really feel like there's a big significant difference for me in these ones that are coming up, in the way that the perspective is achieved. I think in the Whispering Spirits, it kind of almost looks like the wands are just lying on the ground. I mean, I know that they're not, because I know the Seven of Wands, but there's more of that kind of thrusting upwards that is conveyed, I think, in the little monsters. So it wins for me. The Eight of Wands. Both are very, very similar. There is, I think, more energy and more forward thrust in the little monsters though, and I do prefer the colours, so it wins. My battery just died, so I apologise if the lighting has changed at all, but let's dive right back in. The Knight of Wands. This is interesting because I love this little Barney creature. Reminds me of Barney. That's his name, wasn't it? The purple dinosaur guy. I love this. I think it's adorable. But I prefer that this monster here kind of has that more, disheveled, beat up kind of last stand sort of a feeling. I sort of get that, but more just like a tired feeling from our Barney creature. I do think it's adorable though. So I kind of wish we had this creature in this card, kind of more looking a bit more like this creature. Having said that though, I think the Little Monsters has to win this one for me, just because I get more of the feeling of the Nine of Wands in it. Now we have the Ten of Wands. This one, they're so similar and it really could go either way. There's really not a lot of difference if we really break it down. So I think this is kind of has to be one of those ones where I just go with what I prefer in terms of aesthetics and colors, and that would be the Little Monsters Tarot. Now the Page. These are both really, really cute. I have to say, I think that the Little Monsters wins this one. I love the kind of, for me, this Page of Wands looks really curious and kind of inquisitive. That might be the right word. And just ready to explore and experiment and try new things and meet new friends. And that's kind of the feeling I get from this little guy. Whereas this one kind of looks more, I still get that like nervous, sort of innocent feeling from it, but it almost just looks like it's a new guard. Nervous about, this little dragon that's come up to see it. So I don't know, I just get more of the energy and the excitement and all of that sort of the curious spirit that I love to see in pages in the Little Monsters. So this one wins for me. Our Knight of Wands. I love the look on this like animal's face that our knight is riding. It just genuinely looks confused about being on a leaf. I love it. I love that it's quite quirky and unusual, and I kind of think the Knight of Wands can be quite a quirky, strange, not strange, but someone who kind of does things in an unconventional way. So I really like that for the Knight of Wands. I do also like this one. It's really sweet. It kind of has a bit more of a youthful energy, which I think is appropriate for the Knight. But I do think the Little Monsters has to win this one for me again. The Queen of Wands. I really like the detail in the Little Monsters Tarot. I like the little creatures. This little monster down here is quite cat-like, which I think is cool for the Queen of Wands. I like her little kind of sunflower, not a sunflower, but a sunflower. I like that we have the lion on the front of the dress. I like the crown. I think it's really lovely. I like the details. This queen seems more strong, but it also doesn't have the sort of, neither of these queens actually I would say are my favorite. They don't really have the kind of fiery, passionate thing going on that I like to see in the Queen of Wands. I suppose I get a bit more of the spunky energy from the little monsters. I do love the sunflower up here and how it kind of looks like a castle on her crown. So we get a bit more of the queen symbolism there, I suppose. This is another one that's a bit of a toss-up for me. I think I prefer the queen in terms of the character in the Whispering Spirits, but I prefer the details and the additional bits and pieces and the colours in the little monsters. So it really is a toss-up, but it really could go either way, but I think I'm going to stick with the little monsters for this one too. And now our king. These are very similar. We have these kind of salamander sort of creatures. Oh, and I'm just realising actually the way that the king is holding this lion. I think, yeah, that lion is not on the queen's shirt. It's like a little toy lion that she's holding, which kind of makes me like that a little bit more actually. So I do kind of like that there's this like tiny miniature lion that the king is holding. That's cute. I like that on the hat or the crown of this king, it's kind of like a little candle. I think that's nice. This king more looks like he's cheerfully and kindly giving information or orders to his little salamander friends, whereas this one kind of looks like the king's bending down to meet the salamander, which I do quite like that too. I really don't have a strong feeling either way with these, but I think I get slightly more of the immediate king feeling from the little monsters. So the little monsters wins this round too. And now the Ace of Cups. I really like both of these. I think my criticism so far is that sometimes the aces can look more like a page rather than an ace card to me, but both of these are very, very much aces, and I like them a lot. I really like this little figure here, but this also kind of just makes me giggle a little bit. I like that we have like the white bird putting the coin in to both cups, but just in a different way. Honestly, they're really similar if we break them down, and I like both of them a lot. This is one of those ones where I'm just going to have to go with the little monsters because I prefer the art and the colours slightly, but I really, really, really like both cards. Now, Two of Cups, so adorable. I do love how in the little monsters, instead of the lion's head, we have an owl. I think that's really sweet and interesting. I do like these little creatures in the Whispering Spirits though, how they look like these are their bodies and their faces, but they sort of look like they're wearing like a giant dress or hat that's covering most of their bodies. It's really cute. I think in this case, I probably like these creatures more, but I like this card overall more in the little monsters. So again, it's going to go to the little monsters here. The Three of Cups. Both are really sweet. I like them a lot. They both work, definitely. I think I have to go with the little monsters just because I get more of the feeling of friendship and celebration and joy. This definitely, you get that feeling too with like the leaves going everywhere and like the cups and stuff, but I get more of that immediate impact with the little monsters. So this card wins for me. Now, Four of Cups. Both are so sweet. I love them both so much. I love how it's the tree here that's kind of reaching out to the little creature. Whereas in this one, we've got like the cloud literally tapping the creature on the shoulder. It's so cute. I think with these, we get more of the way that the little monster is kind of turning away from the cup. It almost looks more of that ignorance of like just choosing not to pay attention, whereas this one kind of looks like this creature was more just looking in the wrong direction or not paying attention. Does that make sense? There seems to be like that slight difference in interpretation here. I really like both, and I think this would be one of those ones that I'd like a different one on a different day, but today it's the little monsters that wins. Now, our Five of Cups. Both are really sweet, and actually I do really like both, but I think the Five of Cups in the Whispering Spirits, there's just something really sweet about it. It reminds me of a child who's just dropped their ice cream. So I think the Whispering Spirits wins for me. Our Six of Cups. Both are really sweet. Both are very similar. We even have stars coming out of all of the cups in both of the cards. And even the butterfly and the bird are in very similar positions. I like these creatures more, and the fact that there's a bit more ambiguity in their mood and the way that they're kind of responding to the situation. But as per usual, I do prefer the look of the little monsters and the colours and everything. I think both are effective, but for me, the little monsters wins. the Seven of Cups. I really like both of these cards. The Little Monsters is quite traditional, like the looking up at the Seven Cups in the clouds, and I think that definitely gets the more the message of potential fantasy, as well as just a lot of options. Whereas here in the Seven of Cups in the Whispering Spirit, it's kind of more that overwhelm that can happen from too many options. That's more the feeling that I get. So I like that they're actually quite different. I will say that as much as I love the colors and everything in this one, I think I do prefer the Whispering Spirits, just in terms of it's a slightly different take on the Seven of Cups, which is nice to see, and I like it. I think it's fun. Now our Eight of Cups, I love like the robe, the really regal kind of fantasy robe that this little monster is wearing. I do get more of a sense of someone moving away from something in the Whispering Spirits though. So even though I prefer the look of the little monsters, I think this card is slightly more successful in achieving the message. Our Nine of Cups, both are so cute. I love the look of this little Whispering Spirits here. I do think that perhaps the little monsters conveys the message of the more traditional meaning a little bit better though, because there's less emotion coming across in the Whispering Spirits tarot. I like both, but the Little Monsters wins this one for me as well. Now 10 of Cups, both are really sweet, and I love that the Little Monsters is a little bit more vibrant, and as per usual they have a little bit more detail, whereas the Whispering Spirits is a little bit more muted, a bit more flat. I do prefer the imagery though in this one. I think it's really, really nice. I love like the kind of tree broccoli head character here, and the little, I think that I do prefer this one. I think it's really, really sweet. Aren't they cute? Now our pages, I really like both. I think this is probably, of the pages that we've seen in the Whispering Spirits, this might be my favorite. But they're very, very similar. Like they're really similar. So I think it's going to be one of those ones where I just have to pick the image that I like the look of the most. And as per usual, that is the Little Monsters. Our Knight of Cups. I love this one with its like big boots sort of things going on. It's really fun. I also really like this seal sort of character though. It's really pretty. I do sort of feel like this knight feels a little bit more like a wands knight, a fiery knight, instead of a cups watery knight. I do like though that this kind of white fluffy creature, it gives a softer edge. It balances that out. I think this almost feels too youthful though for a knight, if I'm being nitpicky, which I have to be when I'm comparing these cards. It almost feels more page in terms of the really, really young, naive sort of look to it. But I do love to see my knights, if some of my knights are on like a horse or an animal, I like all of them to be, I suppose. And I do really like this, but I don't get Knight of Cups from it. I get Knight of something else. So I think the Whispering Spirits wins this one. Queen of Cups, both very, very cute. I do like the little goblet in this one more. It kind of reminds me of a snitch actually from Harry Potter. I do like the kind of dangly little light that's happening here though on the Queen of Cups and the Whispering Spirit. And ultimately I do prefer that this is a lot more watery than this one. So I prefer the look of the Little Monsters, but I do think that this queen feels a lot more like a Queen of Cups. And our kings. Very, very similar here. We've got the greens, the blues, even like the little purple jellyfish with wings happening. This is like another one of those ones that could go either way. They're very similar. Of course, the Little Monsters looks a little bit more cheeky and cute with its toothy little grin, but they're really very similar. So I'm just going to say that I prefer the Little Monsters. Okay, so the Whispering Spirits, these are all the cards that I picked over the Little Monsters. And for the Little Monsters, these are all the cards I picked over the Whispering Spirit. So let me count up. I think I know which one's won, but I mean, it's not been a landslide. Both have done very well. Okay, final tally is 35 to 43. So the Little Monsters have come out on top, and I more or less expected it to. As far as visuals are concerned, I definitely do personally prefer the Little Monsters. Just the colors and everything, just a little bit more my sort of style. And the creatures are just so alive and so full of fun, playful character that I love it. It just makes me smile when I look at it. The Whispering Spirits is really sweet, and I do think there are some great examples of where the message has perhaps been portrayed a little bit more successfully in this deck as opposed to the Little Monsters. But for me personally, I just feel like the Little Monsters speak to me more clearly than the Whispering Spirits do. And I do prefer the color palette and the kind of texture and dynamic backgrounds and things. Even though they're still very simple, you can see here is a very obvious example of, they're both very, very simple images, but the Little Monsters just has that little bit more, you know, color definition and texture going on in both the water and the background, and even in the creatures themselves. There's a bit more, just a bit more going on in the Little Monsters, which I prefer, but I know, you know, that's just a stylistic choice. That's a preference. Another thing to note is also obviously the way that the titles are done on the cards. The Whispering Spirits is a lot smaller, kind of tucked away in the card a little bit more. I actually don't, I'm not fussy either way. I like both. I will say that perhaps the Little Monsters is slightly easier to read just because the letters are a little bit larger, but also they're a little bit more uniform. But both are fine as far as I'm concerned. Now, I know someone's going to ask me if you can shuffle these cards together, and they are pretty well, I think the Whispering Spirits is maybe slightly larger, but I think you could really realistically shuffle them together. As I said, the cards do feel a little different though, and while I was kind of going throughout this video and touching the cards a lot, they do feel a bit different, and like the Little Monsters slides around a lot more than the Whispering Spirits do. They do feel a bit more matte, a bit more gritty, whereas the Little Monsters, they're not, I wouldn't call them glossy, but they're slick. Which I really like, although I don't know if that'll be changing with the second edition. So there we have it. I do hope you've enjoyed this video. I know it's been a long one, but I thought it was a bit of fun, and I hope this has helped you in deciding which, if any of these decks are for you. Perhaps both are. I'm not sure, but I'd love to hear in the comments below which you prefer. Clearly I have a favorite, but to be fair, this has been a favorite of mine for, I don't know, a year or two now. So I'm very familiar with it. I adore it. I am excited to play around with the Whispering Spirits though, because it is really, really sweet. And they have a different feeling. Even just from when I was doing the unboxing, I definitely got more of like an earthy, gentle, slower sort of a feeling from the Whispering Spirits, which I wasn't necessarily expecting. I think I described experiencing them more as like guardian spirits, and potentially guardians of the earth and the elements. That's kind of the feeling I got, whereas the Little Monsters feel quite alien and playful and mischievous, and it's just two really different, it comes across as two really distinct entities, these two different decks, as similar as they are in so many ways. But of course, before we say goodbye, I have to thank my wonderful patrons over on Patreon for all of your support. It's been really wonderful having you, especially this year. It's been a little tricky for me, so having you guys to chat to and hang out with on the Discord, and also just how patient and understanding you've been with me has been wonderful. Our trade train went amazingly. It's all just been a lot of fun. So thank you to all of you over there, and a big extra special thank you to Tracy Timmerman, Laurie, Lynette Brown, and Hales K. Thank you so much. This is already a really long video, so I'll stop rambling on. I'll leave a link to the other two videos that I've done if you want to look at these decks in more detail, and I'll do my best to answer any questions you might have in the comments, and I'll talk to you again very soon. So much love. Bye.